Righty-ho, so now I'm going to show you how you can insert a zip, and you can do this in any fabric that doesn't fray, or you want it raw edged. It's a good method. So I've got a little zip here. I'm going to mark on the wrong side of my fabric an opening for my zip. So I'm going to measure my zip. So that's about, let's go say 9 centimetres, we'll make it a round edge. So I've got a little bit of leeway, so I'm not going to sew on the end of here or sew on the end of here. So I'm going to draw a straight line on my fabric. I have to go this way, 9 centimetres. So I use my charcoal liner. It's got to be 9 centimetres from top to bottom. Now I'm going to draw a line across, so I'm going to use my ruler and put my line through the centre so I can see it. Going to put a mark at that end. Then I'm going to make sure it's on 9 centimetres here. Such a good little ruler. And put a mark there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be stitching down one side, going across the end and stitching down the other side equal to the side of my line, so that when I cut it out these teeth will fit inside. So I need to make sure that my distance that I do when I cut it out, I'm going to be able to stitch either side. So that's 1 centimetre. So I need to make sure, that's pretty good, it's 1 centimetre all the way. So if you use a foot that is 5 centimetres wide, it will be nice and easy, wouldn't it? So let's have a look. If I have my foot on, that's about 6 centimetres wide. That will do. That will be absolutely fine. So what I'd need to do is move my needle position to the right. And if I don't move it all the way to the right, I can line this up 5 centimetres. And if my needle position goes one more click, that will be perfect. So I'm going to run my foot along the centre of my line. So use your machine, use your feet, use your sewing gauge to get it exactly right, and you'll have a perfect finish. I've put back on ordinary thread. I don't need a thick thread. I just want to stitch this so I've got a cutting line. It just makes it easier. You can cut it first, but I like to stitch it so that I can see it. And it's much easier, then I won't make a mistake. So I could cut this out, but I'm going to stitch it first, and it actually makes it nice and strong. This is the same method as if I'm going to put a pocket on, and I'm going to show you that in a second beside this one, so you can see the two methods. When you get to here, you're going to turn, and you're going to do 1, 2 stitches to the middle, then 1, 2 stitches to the right, so that when you turn it, you know it's going to be exactly even. So this is just one way you can do a cutting line if you're worried, and then you don't have to try and cut it and not have it perfectly accurate. So this is the same way that I do when I'm doing a pocket. So I'm going to show you, just cut that thread. I'm going to do another line exactly the same. 5 millimetres, not centimetres. Thank you very much. 5 millimetres, not centimetres. I do that all the time. So now I'm going to do this one, and I'm drawing a line down this one. Oh, this time I'm going to do it on the right side. This one I'm doing on the right side because I'm going to show you another method at the same time. So this is on the right side. This needs to be 6 centimetres across. And 9 centimetres, wasn't it? Sorry. 9 centimetres. And remember to draw across here, and then make sure it's down the centre of your ruler and draw it across here. So this one's going to be cut out, this one's going to have a piece of fabric on it. So if I get a little bit of fabric as a lining fabric, this will be cute because you'll be able to see it. And I'm going to run a fabric behind, on top of that one. Think what you're doing, Robin. One moment, please. Good now, remembered what I was doing. Right, so I'm going to run a fabric on top of here, and I'm going to stitch around here. So I'm going to draw, that's going to go through that way, and I'm going to make that fold down like that. Cool. I'm actually going to go like that and make a little pocket. So I'm going to draw that same line on here, but this time I'll use a darker colour so I can see, and I'll just line those two up. So in hindsight I should have just drawn it on here, but you know, sometimes you just do dumb things. Right, 9 centimetres long. Draw across the end. So you don't need to draw it on your main fabric, you can just draw it on your piece that's going to be your lining. 9 centimetres here, and draw. So now this is going to go on top of my leather in exactly the same spot. Line it up there and line it up there, and I'm going to be stitching. I could glue stick this on if I needed to. I'm going to be stitching, I've got my foot running along the edge, and I'm going to be stitching on here. Now this is how I do all my zips when I'm going to be making a lining inside. Go across the end. Oops, I forgot to have my thread. 1, 2, 2. I think I need to go 3 actually. 3. Perfect. And then come across here. So these are two completely different methods. And you make a bound buttonhole like this. And across the end. And I like to just go back up there as well and make that stitch. You'll see I made my stitch a bit narrower. Cut the thread. Now with this method I'm going to cut in here in this little line here, fold it in half, cut, and I'm going to cut all the way to about 1 centimetre from the end, and then I'm cutting exactly to my points. So this needs to be exact. So when you cut it, you need to cut exactly to your points like that. Okay? Come down. You don't need to do this on leather. I don't do it on leather. I'm just showing you because it's right here and I can show you both methods. That gets cut down there. And that gets cut down to there. So right to the point. Now what happens is this gets turned through to the back. Like this. And with this method you have made a open casing, but because you've used fabric all the raw edges are inside. It's a brilliant, brilliant method. And so I would then press this method and then put my zip in. Okay, so this is one method where you have got a lining fabric and then you just pop your zip underneath like that, and you turn this over. Okay, so with this method you've got your lining and everything all lined up. You turn your main fabric over and you're actually stitching with your zip foot, but the needle position completely to the other side, down this side. So you can see there's my zip, there's my lining, and I'm stitching on this side. So I need to undo this and I glue stitch that in, glue it in. So undo that so you can start. Lay this underneath from under to up. So pretend you've ironed this all. I don't want to go iron on leather. And just lay this underneath to there and fold this up, and I can glue stitch this down here if I want to. Glue stick it, should I say, not glue stitch it. And I've put it in a safe place. There it is. So remember, just put glue on one or t'other side. So I'll just put some on this side. It's a great, great method, and I've shown you before, but this is just another version of. So you can actually fold it over and do it from this side if you like, and then you can see where it's going. Pop it into there, and pop it into there. Stick it on, turn it over, make sure you're happy with it, and then you're folding this back. Now this is what I want to show you. When you're inserting a zip like this, you are sewing on this fabric, you're coming up exactly on this point, you're coming above that row of stitching, you're going all the way along and going down. In fact, I'm going to put a white thread on so you can see it. You need to see this. It's very, very important. Actually, I've got cream and that's going to show up. So this you do to both sides of your zip, and it's a very, very, very good method. Wait for your machine to finish, then lift it up. So I'm sewing on the fabric. Loving the laser. I can see exactly where my needle's going with the laser. So I can see where my needle's going there when I start. And when I come here, I can have a look and I can put my needle exactly above where I've stitched. Now I can sew all the way along just above my line of stitching. And my normal little zip foot is nice and narrow to be able to push against that zip. Come along to about halfway, and remember you're doing a tiniest little zip, so you want to zip that up back there and make sure you've got this nice and even here. Check that it's all sitting perfectly right, and then carry on. Now with the laser again, I can see where the end of my point is, so I can stitch down. When you get to the end, you sew off. So I'm now sewing onto my fabric only. So there's no back stitching. Isn't that clever? So what it's actually done, you can see very clearly here, is it's sewing on the fabric, then it's sewing up over the zip, and then it's sewing on the fabric. So when I turn this over now, I've got this perfect finish. I can choose if I want to top stitch that, or I can leave it as is. So now with this side, I flip this side over, and I can come right over to here and I can glue that on. I love this method. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So now I can just have a look where that's going, line that all up, and line that up, and pull that down so that I don't see any of my spotty fabric, because that's just a fabric to have for this method, and I don't normally do this on leather, but I'm just showing you how to do it. And that goes to there, and then I'm stitching to the left. Okay, so, oh, it's a bit too far over. So I'm just stitching to the left. Just see if I'm happy with that. That's better. And pull that under. So this is what you do on a normal fabric. So this time I'm doing exactly the same. I'm stitching on my fabric. I can see with my laser where to go. I'm coming up onto my zip and I'm sewing just above my row of stitching. Get to about halfway, then zip your zip to the other end. It's amazing that you can do this method with the soft leather as well. It's brilliant. So off the end, cut your threads, wait for it to finish, lift your foot up, and you can see you've sewn on the fabric, onto the leather, and off into the fabric. Okay? Now to finish the zip off, now that you've done that, you've got both pieces sewn in. To finish it off, all you do is you fold this piece up, flatten this down, and see your lovely little triangle. You're going to sew on the fabric, just the same. So on the fabric here, onto the leather, and then off the fabric. So this is what you're going to sew, and that will tidy up that end. Okay? Very clever. But make sure it's square, so pull that up so it's nice and square. So on the fabric, again the laser does help because I can see exactly where I want it. Up into the zip and make sure it's above where you've stitched, across the end of the zip. And if you need to do a second row, that's fine too. Sometimes you do miss it because it's quite tight. And then check it, and if you're happy with it, don't need to redo it. Then fold this one to the other end. Fold this one up and do exactly the same on this end, and it's a beautiful, beautiful finish. I'll show you on one that I have done on something. No, not that one. This one here. So this one I have done here, and there's my fabric. I've trimmed it away, and that is that method, and this one's waiting to be top stitched on the outside, but I've done exactly the same method. So it's inserting a zip, but I've trimmed away the fabric at the back, and so that's done that way. It's quite clever. So now I'm just going to stitch across here, hold my fabric, make sure I get it above my row of stitching, check where my laser is, it goes above my row of stitching. Okay, so that is what you would do if you wanted to insert a zip and you weren't just sewing it straight on like I've been showing you all morning. That is how you would do a zip. So see, you've got your nice stitch here, you don't even see that fabric, and you can trim that away afterwards, and that's inserted a zip. This one, this will be cut exactly along these lines here. This one gets cut and that's just a guide. You can use, I normally use my cutter if I'm doing a big one, but you want to cut this really, really nice and evenly. Has to be perfectly cut, by the way. So a straight edge is good. And if you ignore that, beautifully cut, Robin. And all you do for this one is you just lay your zip straight underneath and top stitch it in. So you need to make sure it's really, really narrow and it's not stretched, it's not too far. And then you just top stitch that one in. Remember to put a tab in this end, top stitch that one in. So that's another method. Now I'm just going to show you this. Bernina bring out these beautiful, beautiful bags. So if you love that bag but you don't want to do any work, this is all cut out for you. So this is called the Ross's bag. They're a famous designer, and when you buy it, it's already got all your pieces cut out, your lining all done, ready to go. All the pieces are all cut out, and they've even got a beautiful Bernina stamp on the side, on the end of it. And these are not leather, these are vegan leather. So it's got the Ross's stamp on here. It's got your base, your plastic base, and I'm making a pattern so I can make another bag. And then you've got the front and back of your bags. So this being vegan leather, this one you would only need to use a 90 jeans denim needle. So if you don't want to make that bag, you can purchase these bags and you get everything you need. So they come with your zip that you need, they come with your straps to make up, they come with a tie, but instead of using the glue pen, they come with a double-sided tape, and it's very, very sticky. So that holds everything together. So we do sell these, and if you're interested, you can let me know, and you can come and do it in a class, and that makes this beautiful bag. Now when we did these in a class, we actually embroidered the whole front of the bag, but if you want to just make a plain one, that's fine. So it's called a vegan shopper, and they're a very, very nice bag. They don't have a fabric lining, but they're a beautiful bag, and they're very, very strong, and no animals were killed making this bag. All right, so if you'd rather do that, then that's another option. So what I might do is in my next video, I might continue sewing that bag so you can see it made all the way through. So I might do another video, show you how to finish the front of the bag. I'll show you how to insert a pocket in the back of the bag and actually make the whole bag, because it's quite fun to do as a bit of a sew along. So that might be something you might enjoy doing with me. And then out of the scraps, I'm making a little purse basically. And this is just going to be a coin purse, and I've just put a little zip in it, a little tab on here, and I'm just sewing it around. And have I put a lining in it? Yep, and I've put a little lining in it. Oh, let me show you that. So when I do my lining, I make sure that my zip lining is right away from my zip edge. So in the next video, I will show you how to do that, because it's very, very clever. And it just means that you're not going to catch your zip lining every time you open up your zip, and it's just a little trick of mine, so I will show you that. But this is just going to be made into a little coin purse, or a purse for your cards, because it's just a nice size. I just like it because it's nice and soft. So I might put a little hanger on this, so I could, if I was going somewhere, I could just have coins and a bit of pocket money. Do you get pocket money? And I could take it with me, but I could hang it on my wrist. That might be a really good idea if you're going to a market or something. So yeah, that would be quite a handy little one to have. So, and I'm just raw edge stitching around it. So that's just another little one you can make just with scraps of leather or fabric that you've got lying around. So I hope there is something in all of those zippy things that you've enjoyed. I think I'll continue sewing that bag for you, and you can do it as a sew along, and I'll just put that as part 1 and the next one as part 2. So I hope you have a good day, a good weekend, and I will see you next time I do my video.